Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael, Matovu Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. 141, last line. Vani tefilati lecha Adonai et ratzon, Elohim berov chastecha, aneni be'emet ishecha. The morning blessings begin for us on page 153. Accustomed to rise here as we're able, and turn over to Benji Whiting Eisman to lead us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolamim ha'ma'avir sh'namei u'sh'namei ha'papai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolamim ha'noten nasach b'bina l'havachim b'nimori layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolamim roka haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolamim pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolamim malbish harumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolamim matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolamim zokek kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolamim המכין מצעדי גבר. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי עולמים שעשה ליכוד זורקים. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי עולמים עוזר של בגבורה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי עולמים עוטר ישראל בתפארה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי עולמים שעשני בצלמו. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי עולמים שעשני בן חורים. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי עולמים שעשני ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו חי עולמים הנותן לו יעף כוח.
Amen, amen. Continuing 163, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Baruch atah Adonai rofech kol basar umafli la'asot. 165, Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorai. 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 167, Kozman shaneshama bekirbi. Moda ani lefanecha. Neshamot baruch atah Adonai asher beyado nefesh kol chai veruach kol basar. 177 now. Baruch she'amar v'haya olam baruch hu. Baruch oseh v'reshit baruch shemo. Baruch omer ve'oseh baruch hu. Baruch gozer u'mekayem baruch shemo. Baruch merachem al haaretz baruch hu. Baruch merachem al habriot baruch shemo. Baruch meshalem sachar tov lireav baruch hu. Baruch ma'avir afela u'mevii ora baruch shemo. Baruch haylad ve'kayam lanetzach baruch hu. Baruch podeh u'matzil baruch hu u'baruch shemo. 181, last lines. Yachid chei ha'olamim melech meshubach u'mefaradei ad shemo agadol. Baruch atah Adonai, melech mehulal, batishpachot. A verse of Psalms to wake up our impulse for praise. Join me on page 209, the Psalm for Shabbat. And just take a moment to ask yourself, right now, what are you grateful for? There might be hopefully many things, but maybe there's one that reaches the top of the list. And put your focus right there as we sing these words together, page 209. Tov lehodot l'Adonai ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון וכינור, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון וכינור. At the beginning, טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. Now fourth line down. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך ארנן. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. I ask you now to turn ahead with me to page 243, the last few verses of morning praise to help warm us up and get us ready. And after this, we'll turn to Carson Feldman and Ali Cohen to share some poetry with us as we transition into our main prayers. First, page 243, last three lines. ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד עולם, ברוך אתה אדוני, אל מלך גדול בתשבחות, אל ההודאות אדון הנפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרה. מלך אלכי העולמים. To turn now to Carson and Ali for a poem to welcome us in this morning.
Right. That's not where to say.
Ceasing.
Okay. Without Ceasing by Rabbi Rachel. The wash of dawn across the sky reveals your signature. Cicadas drown your praise through the honey slow afternoon. The angular windmills on the ridge recite your name with every turn.
And I, who can barely focus on the breath without drifting into story, what can I say to you, author of Wisteria and Sorrel? You who shape these soft hills with glacier's slow passage. You fashioned me as a gong, your presence reverberates.
Help me to open my lips.
Thank you, Ali and Carson. And want to just
that I may sing your praise.
Yeah. So just to repeat that beautiful closing line in case we all didn't hear it. Help me to open my lips that I may sing your praise. And as Carson mentioned, this is a poem by Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt, Beautiful words for us. Turn with me now, please, to page 247 in our Siddur. Page 247, and rise together in body and spirit as we call ourselves into prayer. Page 247. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. And the answer, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Yotzer Or Uvorech Choshech Oseh Shalom Uvoreh et hakol. 253. El Adon al kol ha'ma'asim baruch u'mevorach befi kol neshama godlo v'tuvo male olam dat u'tvuna sovevim oto hamitgaeh al chayot hakodesh v'nedar bechavod על המרכבה זכות ומישור לפני כיסו, חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו, טובים מאורות שברא אלוהינו יצרם בדעת בבינה ובחסקל, כוח וגבורה נתן בהם, להיות מושלים בקרב תבל, מלאים זיו ומפיקים נוגה, נאה זיום בכל העולם, שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם, עושים באימה רצון קונם, פאר וכבוד נותנים לשמו, צהולה ורינה לזכר מלכותו, קרא לשמש ויזרח אור, ראה והתקין צורת הלבנה, שבח נותנים לו כל צבא מרום, תפארת וגדולה, שרפים ואופנים, צפים ואופנים, וחיות הקודש עלי, לי, לי, לי. Lai 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 lai. Page 269. Or Chadash al Zion Tzayir ונזכח לנו במהרה לאורו, ברוך אתה אדוני, יוצר המאורות. Turn now to the morning Shema. Hannah Clapper will lead us. We'll first chant together those 3 lines right before the Shema, when we gather the tzitziot together. If you have your talit, this is the time to bring those 4 corners together, to wrap the tzitziot around your finger as a reminder of this set of practices, of values, of commandments that is our way of life. Page 275. והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו, כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול, סלע באמת, להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו Yisrael. Hannah Clapper.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol nevacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'ritecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'v'shofbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha u'ftavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'yisharecha.
Yishar kochech, Hannah. We'll continue now on our own, a few moments to reflect on these middle passages where we tie together our love for creation with our understanding of our own Torah. A few moments on our own. And if you would join me, please, in the English, page 282, the middle paragraph, ask us all to read together aloud, even if you're muted. So place these words upon your heart, into your life breath. Bind them as a sign upon your hand, and let them rest before your eyes. Teach them to your children, speaking of them when you sit at home and when you walk upon the road, when you lie down and when you rise, so that your days and your children's days be many on the land the faithful one promised to give your ancestors, as long as heaven rests above the earth. We'll continue page 285. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת להם ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת והיה לכם לציצית וראיתם אותו זכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם Adonai Elohechem Emet. We release the tzitziot. Continue now on page 291, the Song of Freedom, which will lead us into the Amidah this morning, led by Noam Avner. First, page 291. Tilot Lael Elyon Baruch Hu Mevorach משה ומרים ובני ישראל לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף אלה נורא תהילות אוסף אלה שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופתח נאומך יהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל, ברוך אתה אדוני. Gal Yisrael. Now 295 Noam.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imot, u'Mevi Geula Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechaye Kol Chai Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Veroche Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Baal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit, Umechaye, Umatmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atal hachayot kol chai, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye kol chai.
Page 303.
Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, kashem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom, kakatuv al yad neviyecha, v'kar ze el ze ve'amar, kadosh, 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 Adonai tzvaot, meloch ol haaretz kevodo. Az bekol rash gadol, Adir v'chazak mashmi'im kol, mitnasim l'umat serafim, leomatam, Baruch yomeru, Baruch kevod Adonai mimekomo, mimkomecha malkeinu tofia, v'timloch aleinu, ki mechakim anachnu lach, Matai, Matai, Timloch Betzion. Matai, Matai, Timloch Betzion. Bekarov be'amenu le'olam va'ed tishkon. Titgadal v'titgadash betoch Yerushalayim ercha. Ledor vador, lenetzach netzachim. Ve'einenu tirena malchutecha. Kadavar hamor beshirei uzecha. Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohai Tzion, Ledor Vador, Hallelujah. Ledor Vador Nagid Godlecha, Ulenetzach Netzachim Kedushatcha Naptish, V'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush le'olam va'ed, Ki el melech gadol v'kadosh atah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
Amen. Yishar koach. Time now for us to pray on our own together through the middle verses, stanzas of the Amidah, and then join together in a prayer for peace, which Hannah Clapper will lead.
Oseh shalom bimramav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru, imru amen. Oseh shalom bimramav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh shalom bimramav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru, imru, amen.
Yishar kochech. Amen ve'amen. Before we go on with the Torah service, we want to pause to acknowledge the very special national American holiday that has been just instituted this week and is observed today, the 19th of June, Juneteenth. We, you may have noticed that we sang our freedom prayer to the melody of the anthem that has been lifted up by many generations of African Americans, and now hopefully all of us. Lift every voice and sing. Right now, I want to turn to Nathan Willits to share a reading in acknowledging and welcoming this very important and special new holiday. Nathan.
Can you give me a sec? I'm trying to find the.
Nathan, can you speak up a little louder?
I found it. Okay. Take a long, hard look down the road you will have to travel once you have made a commitment to work for change. Know that this transformation will not happen right away. Change often takes time. It rarely happens all at once. In the movement, we didn't know how history would play itself out. When we were getting arrested and waiting in jail or standing in unmovable lines on the courthouse steps, we didn't know what would happen, but we knew it had to happen. You are a light. You are the light. Never let anyone, any person, or any force dampen, dim, or diminish your light. Release the need to hate, to harbor division, and the enticement of revenge. Release all bitterness. Hold only love, only peace in your heart, knowing that the battle of good to overcome evil is already won.
Thank you so much, Nathan. We will hold those words close to us, words I believe from the great John Lewis, whose yahrzeit we're about to observe, coming up in just a few weeks. For now, I invite us to turn ahead to our Torah reading for this morning, which will begin first with the special Torah service Shema on page 393 in our books. And for this, we're going to turn to the awesome trio of Sarah, Talia, and Natalie. So will the three of you lead us page 393 and just give us a moment to respond to each of the lines.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Everyone join Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shema.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadol Adonai iti, unemromema Shemo Yachdav.
Hear, hear. Thank you so much. Yishar kochachen, all three. And with that little bit of Torah service liturgy, we'll turn now to our Torah readings, which will begin with an introductory teaching from Simon Richman and Z. Malamud, speaking to us today about Parashat Chukat.
Shabbat Shalom. While a lot happens in Parashat Chukat, we thought we would focus on one event and its context, Moses hitting the rock. In this Parsha, the Israelites get to Zin and they stay in Kadesh. Miriam dies and is buried there. The Israelites have no water and they complain to Moses about this, who goes to God. God tells Moses to go talk to the rock. Moses then gets angry and hits the rock. God gets angry in turn and tells Moses that he and Aaron cannot lead the people into Israel anymore. There is a lot of debate about why Moses chooses to hit the rock when God specifically told him to speak with it. Why would Moses hit the rock? Z and I would like to hear your thoughts before we share our own.
Thank you, Sai. So tell us one more time what your question is. What are you asking us to think about and respond to? Why would
Moses choose to hit the rock when God specifically told him to speak with it?
So just again, reiterating a central question that our rabbis and sages have tried to answer for many generations, and now it's our turn. And Sai or Z, are you comfortable calling on people as they raise their hands, or would you like me to do that?
I'd rather you do it.
Okay. So folks, if you could use the hand raise function on your Zoom screen, it's right at the bottom of your screen on the menu bar where it says reactions. You can raise your hand and let us hear your thoughts. I'm just going to turn myself over to gallery view here. So we've got already something to share from, I think it's from Shira. Maybe it's Shira and Melissa, and then Steve. Go ahead, Shira. You can't unmute. Shelley, can you unmute people since they can't seem to unmute themselves? No? Are you able to unmute? No.
Steve should be unmuted right now.
Right, but we're asking Shira.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
okay.
apologize. One more time.
Shira
Okay.
and Melissa. Okay, there we go. Thank you.
I think he was mad.
Shira, speak up a little more.
I think he was mad.
You think Moses was mad? Yeah. Do you want to say why he was mad? Okay, it's a great beginning. Thank you. Thank you so much. Steve, go ahead.
So I would just say that Moses was a human, and he got angry at once again, another plea from the people who didn't seem to have faith. And frankly, he lost it. And his focus was on the rock, but he lost the words of God. He just struck the rock out of frustration.
Great. Thank you. Just noticing Moses's humanity. He's just a regular guy like the rest of us, regular person. Okay, I think we've got Isaac Beal. I don't know whether it's Isaac or Matt, or maybe both of you.
Yeah, so I think in addition to what Steve said, he was also like still in mourning of Miriam, who like kind of helped raise him and was his sister, obviously.
Kol hakavod. So it would, as Sai laid out for us in the opening introduction, Miriam has just died, and maybe, as Isaac is saying, Moses is suffering and mourning. And we all know that it's whenever we're in a moment of a trauma or a difficulty, we often act out in ways we might not especially want to. Or maybe we want to. Thank you, Isaac. I thought, Audrey, I saw your hand up. Maybe you were going to say the same thing that Isaac was saying. You were. Great. Okay. Space for one or two more. I see in the chat here, Vanessa, I don't know if this is Vanessa, you speaking, or someone else in your household, frustration and the belief that God's direction was a ridiculous one. Like who goes around speaking to a rock? Is that what you mean? Or is that you, Benji? Tuning in. Great. Okay, Sai, I think, and Z, we're going to pass it back to you.
Yeah, so all great ideas. We had very similar ones. So our theory is that Moses had just had enough. Moses is grieving. His sister has just died, and he might understandably still be processing this. It makes sense that he would be angry at this loss. One theory that we found was that the rock is Miriam's well that had followed the Israelites through the desert up until now. The well stops providing the Israelites with water after Miriam's death. If we look at the rock and the well as the same thing, then the rock is, in a way, a representation of her death. Perhaps God asking Moses to go speak with a reminder of his grief was the final straw, and he reacted in anger instead of doing as God commanded.
If we think about it, Moses hasn't really had it easy as the leader of the Jewish people. There are several times in the Torah where the Jewish people state things such as wanting to go back to Egypt or wishing they had died in the wilderness. They doubt God over and over again, and in some instances, God actually strikes back. This brings us to our next point. Moses actually has to stop God from killing the Jewish people several times. In Numbers 14:11 through 12, God threatens to smite them for doubting his existence. In my opinion, this is extremely unfair. The Jews had just been taken out of slavery, were wandering in the wilderness, and just had to trust that an unseeable force was causing all of these strange things to happen. They had been through serious trauma. In Numbers 21:6 through 7, God sends down snakes to bite and kill the Jewish people just because they were complaining. They had no food or water. It wasn't their fault. They were literally starving. Moses had to get God to calm down, then ask God, hey, can you please give something to save everyone else? God also threatens to kill Moses if he doesn't circumcise his son. I like to quote my childhood best friend's interpretation of God in the Torah. God is like an easy bake oven, quick to heat up and slow to cool down.
God hasn't necessarily made life easy for Moses. In Exodus 4:10 through 12, it's revealed that God gives Moses a speech impediment as a child. And in Exodus 4:21, he states that he will stiffen Pharaoh's heart. And in the end, Moses and the Jewish people are the ones who end up suffering from that decision. Early on, Moses' father-in-law warns him that he may be taking on too much and will wear himself out. We think that that was what happened here. What we often forget is that Moses is just a human being. Moses was sick and tired of his poor treatment and acted like a human, with anger. All of his pain and suffering exploded into one action that would ultimately cost him everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Z and Sinan. Thank you so much for bringing your thoughts and your voices to this incredibly important and confounding story. And we'll let those images just sit with us as we now turn to the text itself. We're going to have 4 Torah readings this morning and a Haftarah reading. And each one of the readings, let's see, Pam, when you call the readers up, will you also, when you call the honorees up, would you also acknowledge the readers by name so that we can celebrate and appreciate them? And I want to start by celebrating and appreciating you, Pam Summers, wherever you are. I know you're here. As we all in this service today know, Pam has been a wonderful leader and guide and mentor and source of inspiration and fun and joy for our young people, for our teens, rising teens, people who are almost finished with their teens. And we're just incredibly grateful for all of your wonderful efforts in our community. And we're going to turn to you now, Pam, to be our Gabbai. And Pam, would you also just make sure to announce the verses and page numbers and so on? You have that.
Sure. Okay, so we are starting out. I would like to invite Talia Egnell. She's our first reader, and our first honoree is Mira Cox. V'yazor v'yagen v'yoshia l'chol ha'chosim bo v'nomar amen. Ha'kol havu godel Eloheinu utnu chavod la'Torah. Tamod, Mira Cox.
Baruch atah Adonai, Baruch atah Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
And if you look in the chat, you will see that we are starting at Numbers chapter 19, verses 1 through 6, page 1145 in the old Plout and page 1025 in the new. Talia.
Amen. Vayidaber Adonai al Moshe el Aharon lemor. So tukat haTorah asher siva Adonai lemor. Daber al bnei Yisrael. Vayikhu eleha fara adumah. Timimam asher ein ba mum asher lo ala ala ha'ol untatam ota el elazar hakohen v'hozi ota al mihutz lahaneh v'shahat ota lefanav V'lakah Elazar hakohen midama ba'atzba'a v'hizah anohak penei o hamoed midama sheva pe'amim v'saraf et hapara la'enav את תורה ואת בשרה ואת עמל פרשה ישרוף ולקח הכהן את ארז ואסוף ושני תולעת והשליך על תוך שרפת הפרה.
Baruch atah Adonai hamelamed Torah la'amo Yisrael.
Amen. Yishar kochech, Talia. What a beautiful thing to hear you read. And Mira, to turn to you before we go into our next honoree. First of all, can you tell us where you are right now?
I'm at Camp Havaya
And
in
what do you
the
do?
main office.
You're in the main office at Camp Havaya. And why are you at Camp Havaya?
I'm working as a counselor here this summer, and Shira's sitting in her office.
Your boss, Shira Noack?
Yes.
So we wanted to just pause with each of the honorees this morning, who are all high school graduates, just to invite you to share some words about your plans this summer. That's pretty clear already. And as I wrote to each of you, maybe something special that you want to hold on to from your high school years, and something that you're looking forward to as you go forward. Oh, and I want to just say, could each of the honorees please, I mean, we all know you, but just in case, say who you belong to family-wise so that we know who you belong to.
Okay. I belong to Brian Cooks and Kim Bayard. But I'm 18, so you know. I belong to myself. This summer I'm working at camp for first session, and then so that's until basically the end of July. And then I'm going to go to Israel, and I'm gonna learn Hebrew there for a month. And then should I say my college? Was that part of? Okay, so I'm doing a dual degree program between Tel Aviv University and Columbia University. So I'll spend my first 2 years in Tel Aviv in Israel, and then my second 2 years in New York City at Columbia. And something that I will take with me from high school. Something that I'll take with me from high school is, I think, no, that's a big question. I think like really knowing, like, I mean, not that I like know who I am. I'm, you know, like I'm still young, but like I feel like I really began like figuring out who I am and like who I want to be. And I'm super happy about that. So maybe it's not like as much of a lesson, but it's like something that I'll definitely take away from high school. So yeah.
Kol hakavod lach. And I can tell you from someone who's a few years older than you that discovery of who we are is a lifelong journey. And I'm so glad that you feel invited to it from your high school experience. We're going to have a chance to talk with Mira a little bit after services. She's had a rather unusual high school journey, and have a chance to hear more about what that particular thing was. We wish you hatzlacha and briut, success and health, and I would say simcha, some joy in your activities this summer, in digging into your Hebrew learning and into what's coming after that at Tel Aviv U as you begin your college career. And I just want to notice that there are a couple of chats that from some of our Havaya campers who are, I think, kind of excited to see your background there, even though it's just the office. It's still Havaya, Camp Havaya. So wonderful to see you. Thank you, Mira. And Yishar Kochech. Okay, back to you, Pam.
Our second reader is Benji Whiting Eisenman. And our next honoree is Olivia Zaid. Talmud, Olivia Zaid. And now we are continuing at verse 7 through 9.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asuk b'divrei Torah.
Amen. וכיבס בגדיו הכהן, ורחץ בשרו במים, ואחר יבוא אל המחנה, וטמא הכהן עד הערב, ושורף אותה, יכבס בגדיו במים, ורחץ בשרו במים, וטמא עד הערב, ושב איש טהור. את אפר הפרה הניח מחוץ למחנה, במקום טהור, והייתה לדת בני ישראל למשמרת למי נידה חטאתי.
Baruch atah Adonai hamelamed Torah le'amo Yisrael.
Amen. And so before we come to you, Olivia, we want to say Yishar Koach to Benji. This is the second Torah reading he's done since his Bar Mitzvah celebration, which was only last April. So not that it's the contest, but wow, how wonderful, Benji. And we look forward to hearing you many more times again. Thank you. And now to you, I was going to say Madame Olivia, because I feel that you need a special title given what you've done at Adat Shalom, but just want to have a moment to turn to you and invite you to share with us some of the same questions we were asking Mira.
Yeah, so I'm Olivia. My mom's Ellie Kleinman, my dad's Mark Zaid, but he doesn't come a lot, so you probably don't know him. So my summer plans would be next week. I start Democracy Summer, which is a program that Jamie Raskin runs, and it includes people from around the country and all of that. So that's exciting. And then I just go to Maine, and then I start school at Bryn Mawr in the fall. And I guess a lesson I learned from high school would definitely just be how to work as part of a team, especially because I play softball and we just finished our season, and we won regional championships for the first time, which was pretty awesome. But the whole experience was definitely very enlightening and taught me a lot. So it was great.
That's wonderful. Congratulations. So taking with you this lesson about the power of working with a team. And I just can't help but reference the amazing experience we had watching the the Purim Spiel that you directed this past winter and spring, which was made up of all young people in our community, led by young people, produced by young people. So yeah, I see that Shira and Melissa are saying something like the same thing. So we look forward to stay in touch with you and wish you the best for your travels this summer and onward to Pennsylvania, and look forward to seeing you again here often. Kol hakavod lach. Okay, Pam, back to you.
So now I would like to call up Noam Richmond for the third reading, and our honoree is Louis Cedarbaum. Yamot, Louis Cedarbaum.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Wait, is it me or Noam Avner? I'm sorry.
Oh yes, Noam Richmond.
Okay, thanks.
There are too many Noams in this community.
וכיבס האוסף את אפר הפרה את בגדיו וטמא עד הערב והייתה לבני ישראל ולגר הגר בתוכם לחוקת עולם הנוגע באמת לכל נפש אדם וטמא שבעת ימים הוא יתחרטה vo vayom hashlishi vayom hashvi yitar ve'om yitchata vayom hashlishi vayom hashvi lo yitar kol hanegea be'emet b'nefesh ha'adam asher yamut velo yitchata et mishkan Adonai time v'nichreta hanefesh hahiv mi-Yisrael ki mer nida lotzorah alav tameh yihye od to tomatu vo zot hatorah Adam kiamut be'ohel kol haba'a el ha'ohel v'chol asher ohel yitma shivat yamim v'chol kili patuach asher en samid hakil alav temehu v'chol asher yiga al panei hasadeh b'chalal
Cherev.
o v'met ovetsem Adam v'kaver yitma shivat yamim v'lachu latameh v'tameh serefat hachatat v'natan alav ma'im hayim el keli.
Baruch atah Adonai hamelamed Torah le'amo Yisrael.
Amen. Yishar koach, Noam. And we'll turn to you, Louis, to give us a moment to appreciate you and also to hear a little bit about what's happening in your world and what you're taking with you and what you're looking forward to.
Hello, I'm Louis. I belong to Jonathan Searbaum and Alice Winkler. And this summer, I'm participating in a YMCA National Youth Government Simulation called KONA. And I'm babysitting, and I am maybe doing a summer seminar with Wesleyan University, which is where I'll be attending in the fall in Connecticut. And something that I appreciate from high school, maybe not a big lesson, but I definitely appreciate the learning better critical thinking skills. I think a lot of my thinking and views have definitely evolved a lot, especially in the last year from high school.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And you have been a leader on our Bima several times already. And I have to say for myself, I could see that critical thinking blossoming as you've grown over the last several years. We look forward to hearing more and wish you only good things as you make your way to Kona and to Wesleyan and beyond, and to hearing you and seeing you back here as you come back to your family. Yishar koach, mazal tov. I just want to notice that each of you who have introduced your families have said you belong to your parents, but not your siblings. And I just want to acknowledge those siblings along the way. Gabby and Cece and Natalie and Dahlia. And so Liana Bear, just a heads up for you when it's your turn. But first, we want to pause for our healing prayer, and we're going to turn to you, Liana, to lead us in that. Want to invite all of us here on Zoom today, as we think about the people that are in our prayers for healing, to feel free to please share those names in the chat, to lift up those individuals, especially for prayers and for support. So as we see those names come forward, Liana, we turn to you to lead us.
Misheberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. And let us say, Amen. Misheberach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Amen. And Yishar kochech. I just want to absorb all these many names that are appearing here in our chat. Send all of those people and everyone who's in our prayers love and support and strength ourselves to be part of their healing journey. And so one more time to you, Pam, to call the next honoree.
So now I would like to call Henry Dirks up as our reader, and he is going to be chanting the Maftir reading, which is chapter 21, verses 34 all the way to chapter 22, verse 1. You can find it in the old plout, pages 1163, or in the new plout, 1033. And our honoree, who just sang beautifully, is Liana Bear. Ta'amod, Liana Bear.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
ויאמר אדוני אל משה, אל תירא אותו, כי בידך נתתי אותו, ואת כל עמו ואת ארצו, ועשית לו כאשר עשית לסיחון מלך האמורי, אשר יושב בחשבון, ויכו אותו ואת בניו ואת כל עמו, על בלתי השאירו שריד, וירסו את ארצו, וייסעו בני ישראל, ויחנו בערבות מואב, מעבר ירדן, יריחו.
Baruch atah Adonai hamelamed Torah l'amo Yisrael.
Amen. Yishar Koach, Henry, wonderful to hear your voice and your beautiful reading. And now to you, Liana, who we are honoring for this final Aliyah as a high school graduate heading to university. Share with us a little about what's happening in your world.
So right now, over the summer, I'm going to be hopefully helping out with my high school's marching band. And then also moving on to the marching band for college, which is Towson. Then I'm going to Towson. What else?
Anything you want to share about something special that you're holding on to from your high school years? It doesn't have to be a lesson, but just anything at all, anything you experienced that was really important to you.
Honestly, it would probably be the marching band, because that kind of is what gave me an idea of where I wanted to go for college. So it really.
And tell us, what do you play in the marching band?
I do the color guard.
Excellent. Beautiful. And you're going to get to do more of that at Towson, it sounds like. Wonderful. And do you want to say anything about your family?
I have a lot of it. I have, my parents are Helen and Ken Avner and Joanna Bear. And I have Noam.
Yes, you do.
Hello.
Excellent. Mazal tov to you, Yishar Kochech, and we hope that we get to see you and maybe even catch a little bit of your marching band awesomeness. Thank you so much. Just want to acknowledge the wonderful drash that we heard at the beginning of the reading from Z and Sinan. Was kind of like the sandwich filling in the middle of Parashat Chukat. The reading we heard this morning was from the beginning of the parasha, and then Henry just brought us right to the end of it. So enormous appreciation to all of you who read, who came forward for honors, who taught, and who helped with blessing this morning. It's really such an inspiration to get to be with you and to hear you and to have a chance face to face to wish you well, high school graduates and everyone, as you go forward into this summer. We wish first and foremost for all of you to be well and healthy, and to go in health and come back in health. Okay, so we're going to turn now. We have some special things to share before we go to our very closing prayers. And we want to start first with a special reading for Pride Month, which is the month of June. And to turn to Louis Cederbaum once again to share, I am just jumping ahead here. First, we have a Haftarah. Thank you, Beth Sperber Ritchie, for holding me to the correct outline here. I want to turn now to Maya Egnal to bring us into the Haftarah for this morning from the book of Judges.
Okay, so this reading is from the book of Judges, and it tells the story of Jephthah and his daughter. And so in exchange for victory in battle, Jephthah promises God that he would sacrifice the first thing that meets him when he returns home, if he is victorious. And so he wins the battle, returns home, and his daughter is the first person to run out to meet him. And so while the Torah does not, or the Haftarah does not go into detail about it, this Haftarah warns of the effects of war and how everyone ends up losing in the end. So Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratzav v'tivrehem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai haboher b'torah uv'Moshe avdo uv'nvi'eh ha'emet Tzedek. Va'yivta Hagiladi Haya Gibor Ha'il Vehu Benisha Zona Vayoled Gilad at Yivta V'teled Ishet Gilad Lo Banim Vayidglu B'nei Ha'isha Vayigarshu et Yivta Vayamru Lo tinahal Beit Avinu Ki Benisha Aheret Ata Vayivra Yivta Mifnei Ehav Vayashev Ve'eretz Tov Vayitlaftu et Yehuta Anashim Rekim Vayatsu Imo Vayi Miyamim Vayalachmu B'nei Amon Im Yisrael Vayahi Ka'asher Nilamu B'nei Amon Im Yisrael Vayalahu Ziknei Gilad Lakahat et Yivta Meretz Tov Vayamru Lifta Lahab V'hayita Lanu Lakatzim V'nilahama Bivnei Amon Vayomer Yifta Isknei Gilad Halo Atem Shenetem Oti V'tagarushani Mi Bet Avi V'modam Batem Allah Ata Kasher Ser Lahem Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech haolam Sor kol amim Tzadik b'chol hadarot Ha'el ha'ne'eman Ha'omer ve'oseh Ha'medaber u'mekayin Shekol devarav emet v'tzedek Al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah Ve'al ha'nevi'im Ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh Shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu L'kedusha v'limnuha L'chavot u'l'tifaret Akol Adonai Eloheinu Anachnu modim la U'mivarhim ota Itbarashim ha'befikul hai Tamid le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh ha'shabbat.
Amen. Yishar kochech, Maya. Wonderful introduction and sharing of the text. And now we'll turn ahead to the reading I was mentioning before to Louis Cederbaum to speak words in acknowledgement of Pride Month.
We come together this Shabbat, each bringing with us a private world of hopes, of fears, of dreams. Some of us are burdened by anxieties and cares that all but crush our faith in the future. Others have hearts filled with happiness, grateful for the joys of the past week, yet aware that even the most fortunate are vulnerable before the mystery of tomorrow. Every life is a unique blending of joy and sorrow, of fulfillment and frustration. Beneath our uniqueness, we are all bound together by our common humanity. All of us most deeply yearn for the blessings of freedom and peace. Each of us seeks the personal liberation of a mind that is not enslaved to conventional wisdom, a heart that is able to love without fear, a spirit that cries yes to the universe. Each of us strives too for the inner peace that comes with finding a harmony between what we want out of life and what we can have, between our aspirations and our abilities. This is the Shabbat peace to which we aspire. Thank you.
Shar koach, Louis. Thank you so much. Before we go to our closing Eitz Chaim to complete the Torah service, and for that, again, to our wonderful trio of Sarah, Talia, and Natalie, I just want to share a few passages from the prayer for the state of Israel, which has gone through its own enormous transition since we last met on Shabbat. A brand new government has been installed after much drama and complication and complexity, and after, sadly, much violence. And so we want to turn our eyes and our blessings to this new Israeli leadership with encouragement to find solutions to the many challenges facing Israel and Palestine. So turn with me, please, to page 421 in your Siddur. And let's read together. Tzur Yisrael v'goalo, barech na et medinat Yisrael reshit smichat geulatenu. Hagen aleha berov chasdecha ufros alea sukat shlomecha, shlach orcha ve'amitcha lerasheha, leshoftea ulenivcharea, v'taknem be'etzah tova milfanecha, למען ילכו בדרך הצדק, החופש והיושר. And I'm going to skip down now the 4 lines from the bottom. העצל מרוחך על כל יושבי ארץ קודשנו, הסר מקרבם שנאה ואיבה, קנאה ורשות, ותא בליבם אהבה ואחווה, שלום ורעות, וקיים במהרה חזון נביאך, לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, ולא ילמדו עוד מלחמה, ונאמר אמן. Let's turn now to page 441 in the Siddur to complete our Torah service for today, turning to Sarah, Talia, and Natalie. Page 441.
Etz Chaim hi למחזיקים בה בתום המאושר דרכיה דרכנו וכל נתיבותיה שלום השיבנו אדוני אליך בנשובה חדש חדש ימינו כקדם.
So beautiful. Thank you so much. We have some wonderful things to share this morning, and right on cue, I'm running into some technical difficulties. So I'm simply going to ask for your patience for a moment while I queue up a wonderful new video that has been produced by our own Pam Summers with our own Chords of Glory singers. So folks, I ask for your patience. I'll be right there.
Also, may I speak while you are
Yes,
preparing?
please, that would be.
Okay, so I do not want to take all the credit for this because the amazing ensembles online produced this as they produced all of the adult choir videos that you have seen. And once again, they helped to produce my vision, I guess I would say. And what I want you to really pay attention to is because we produced this during COVID, all of the singers, as you will see, had to really, really gain confidence as solo singers and as choral singers. And there were some who did not feel comfortable singing solos, who you will see there's a variety of still photographs that are part of this video. So I definitely want to acknowledge all of them. Their names are at the end of the video. So I hope you enjoy this.
Okay, thank you so much, Pam. And here we go. Oh, no. Oh my goodness. Will this, okay, there. Okay, we're good.
With songs they have sung for 1,000 years. The hills fill my heart with the sound of music. My heart wants to sing every song it hears. My heart wants to beat like the wings of the birds that rise from the lake to the trees. My heart wants to sigh like a chime that flies from a church on a breeze. To laugh like a brook as it trips and falls over stones on its way. To sing through the night like a lark who is learning to play. I go to the hills when my heart is lonely. I know I will hear what I've heard before. My heart will be blessed with the sound of music, and I'll sing once more. הלב מבקש להמריא על בן אגם לצמרות העצים. הלב מבקש לחצני הצלצול פעמון מקסים לצחוק בסופה אשר מעגה שחלפה בין צלעים לשיר כמו זמיר שקולו ותלילה ימים אבוא אל החי שבלב עצוב לי אבל בשמה תשובותם קולה ליבי יבורר בצלילי הזמר אשיר עוד with songs that are sung for 1,000 years. Love is to my heart with the sound of music. My heart was lost to see. My heart was lost to the birds that rise from the waves to the trees. My heart was the sun like the sun that flies from a church on a breeze.
Wow. I want to invite us all to do as we do on Zoom, to lift our hands in appreciation to these beautiful singers, to Pam Summers, and to wish that this amazing project, this amazing group, continue to be inspired and nourished to keep singing and to keep sharing the healing and positive encouragement that comes from this music to those who need it most. Thank you so much, Pam, and to the many beautiful voices. Many of you are on this call this morning. We're very excited to be with you and to share this music. Kol hakavod. Well, I think we'll have a chance to see that beautiful piece again. Today is not the only day to show it, God willing. I'd like to turn us now to our closing prayers, and we'll begin first with acknowledging the memory of loved ones in our community. First, to acknowledge Andy Swire, who's just closing in on the completion of Shloshim, the month in memory of his mother, Stevie Swire. and also to acknowledge those yortzites in our community this week. Naomi Weiss's mother, Rose Santo, Marty Shore's father, Sidney Shore, Joan Spiritus's sister, Belle Altman, John Orsman's father, Mandel Altman, Judy Ackerman's nephew, Alex Fetterman, Phyllis Lerner's mother, Sylvia Oringel Lerner, Philip Abrams' mother, Edith Abrams, Jane Handler's father, Sidney Handler, Carol Klinger's father, Jack Klinger, Rick Moser's sister, Lisa Moser, Carol Stern's grandfather, Jacob Spindell, Sharon Berenson's grandfather, Max White, Doug Fishman's sister, Andrea Fishman, Bruce Kutnick's mother, Esther Kutnick, Marshall Mazer's mother, Eleanor Mazer, Carol Stern's mother, Lillian Spindell, Sharon Bray's grandfather, Harry Bray, Michael Laufer's grandmother, Fanny Freeman, Jerry Kickinson's mother, Gertrude Kickinson, Susan Malamud's grandmother, Eleanor Schlenk, and David Saradsky's mother, Gloria Saradsky. The Mourner's Kaddish Yatom is on page 451 in our prayer books, in our Sidurim, inviting all those who are in mourning or observing a yortzeit today to please stand and to join in reciting the Kaddish Yatom, page 451. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shmei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach Yiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehe Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'alam u'lamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpo'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shamaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha. May those memories that stay with us after we lose our loved ones continue to nourish us, inspire us, comfort us, and help us to continue our own journeys. We'll turn back now in the Siddur to page 445 and ask Isaac Beal to lead us in the opening of our Aleinu prayer, page 445. Customary to rise here as we're able.
עלינו לשבח, לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה, לעוצר בראשי, שנתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ואנחנו קוראים משתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Take a moment to just continue the middle of the Aleinu on our own. Ve'al haaretz mitachat ein od, al ken nekavel lecha Adonai Eloheinu lirot mehira b'tiferet uzecha. And join me please for the closing verses, page 449. כי המלכות שלך היא ולעולמי עד תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Yishar Koach to Isaac, and we look forward to hearing you again in time. Want to go now to our Vice President for Programming, Shauna Wagger, to share some congregational greetings. Shauna.
So Shabbat Shalom. What an amazing service this was. Kol hakavod to everyone, from those behind the scenes who made this complex service work so well, to those in front, particularly all of our teams. It was amazing. And I do want to keep these announcements short so that the amazing young voices that we've heard, amazing in beauty, amazing in wisdom, are what resonate with us at the end. So the thing that I'll mention is that on June 17th, we all received a special edition of Social Solidarity. It's the family edition. And we want to be sure that everyone takes a look at that. It really is for everyone. It includes things about Tat Shabbat schedules and baseball games and Kabbalat Shabbat and many things. So we really encourage you to go back and take a look at everything that's in that family edition of the Social Solidarity. And I will conclude by saying again, Toda Rabba Rabba. The voices that we've heard, these young voices, are so amazing, and they are the voices of our future. And it should make all of us so hopeful. So Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much, Shauna. What a beautiful closing greeting for us this morning. And I couldn't concur more heartily. Now, we've come to the end of our morning together, and as I mentioned earlier, we want to ask people to stay tuned in just a few minutes to talk with Mira Kux a little, who is back in the United States just for a little while this summer between her high school program in Israel and now her college program in Israel. She has a unique story to tell, and she is, as we know, tuning in from Camp Havaya today. Before we go there, I want to ask us to take literally 5 minutes. This is a 5-minute acknowledgement of this most important and unique new national holiday, which our president has instituted starting this year. This is the first year that the United States will observe Juneteenth as a federal holiday, and it just happens to fall on our Shabbat. So a very special opportunity for us as a community, and I have to say as a Jewish people, to join our energy and our commitment to all the possibilities for healing, for redemption, for truth finding, in understanding the real story of how our great country has come to be what it is. So I'd like to share a video of the anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. You'll see in this video many images of African-American leaders from across American history. And I want to say to the young people that are tuned in today, as I wrote in my message to the community yesterday, you are inheritors of a very important task. You are the ones who are going to help push our country forward in fully addressing the history and legacy of racism in our country. So I want you to notice the images in this video. See if you notice which ones you recognize, and notice the ones you don't recognize, and make a note so that you can find out who they are, because their story is as important to American history as anyone else. I want to invite us to rise as we sing this anthem together. And bear with me as no, we don't want that.
Rejoice!
May this new establishment of Juneteenth be a powerful tool for finding our true story as Americans. Thank you again to everyone who participated this morning, to all of our young leaders. And we're going to ask our, it looks like a quartet by now, of people to lead us in Vishamru. I have a Kiddush cup here, and I don't know if you do. And after that, Beth or Shelley, can we please invite people for a few minutes of a schmooze and then join together at noon for a conversation with Mira? Okay, I hope that's okay. Okay, so the Fabulous Four, page 465 in our Siddur.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. בני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. הרכנו לפני את יום השבת ויקדשהו, ספרי חבריי. ברוך אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. Amen.
Amen. L'chaim. Kol hakavod, and how fun to hear four voices all together. When are we going to do that again, friends? Soon, I hope. Join me in a motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz, b'tei avon. Again, thank you so much, everyone. Special thank you to our Gabayim today, Shelley Sadowski and Beth Sperber-Ritchie. And if we could please have a few minutes in breakout rooms, and let's begin our conversation with Mira right at 12:05.
Hello.
Hello.
I was exploding.
I'm looking
But I'm glad
here.
we're recording this.
Oh. Should we stop?
But she happens to be right now and for the next few weeks. And as we heard her say earlier during the service, she's already up at Camp Havaya doing staff training. She's getting ready for Mira. This is your first summer as a counselor, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So that's a big, exciting transition also after years
Yes.
of being a camper. And I asked Mira if she would spend some time with us telling us a little bit more. I'm saying more because some of us know a little bit about the unique high school program and experience that she had, which was at the IB program, the International Baccalaureate program at Givat Chaviva, which is in Israel. So she spent the last 2 years of her high school education living in Israel and learning in this unique program. So we have this sort of a very extremely informal kind of interview format in mind here, but also with plenty of room for people to ask questions. If you have a question coming up, if you could put it in the chat, and I'll try to keep half an eyeball there, and just to tune in with you, Mira. So Mira, would you start by telling us how you even learned about Givat Chaviva in the first place?
Yes, it's so appropriate because I'm at camp. But so yeah, I've been going to camp. This is my 10th summer at camp, actually, which is really exciting. But 2 summers ago in 2019, I went on the Camp Havaya Israel experience trip, whatever, for
So just to clarify, that's a regular annual trip
yes,
that the Camp Havaya sponsors for kids who are
for
rising.
rising 11th graders. Yeah.
Right. And for instance, Sarah Sherlander is going on that
Yes.
trip in a few weeks. So she's a rising junior. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Go
And
ahead.
like, so I went on that trip the summer before my junior year of high school, and I thought I was just going on my Camp Israel trip, which I was like had been waiting for since I was probably 8 years old. And it was great. Like the experience in and of itself was like Jewishly amazing. I never went to Israel before, so like, and I also really didn't think that I was going to connect Jewishly in the way that I did. So that in and of itself was really special to me. But on the trip, we visited Givat Chaviva, which is there's a school there, but the school is not like the primary attraction. It's a center for shared society between Palestinians and Jewish Israelis, and mostly the Palestinians are mostly citizens of Israel, so Arab Israelis. And we had a panel of, well, okay, just to give some context, I think I have this on no authority, but my perception is that camp tried to be pretty balanced in broaching the narrative of the conflict with us. So in addition to going to Givat Chaviva, we went to the West Bank and we went to Bethlehem, which is, if you don't know, part of like the Palestinian Authorities control area A, I guess, in the West Bank. And we also went to a settlement, like a Jewish settlement in the West Bank. So they tried to be balanced, like a valiant effort. So anyways, when my group went to Givat Chaviva, we had a panel of Palestinian women who are citizens of Israel, talk about their experience being Palestinian citizens of Israel and being women in Muslim communities. Neither of them were Christian or Druze. And it was like, I don't know, like it was really, I always try and like think of the right word to describe it. And I talked to my dad a lot about this actually. And I think the word that we like just chose was like humbling, kind of. I used to say that I was really ashamed of myself after like sitting in this they were just talking, they were just telling us about themselves. And I really felt like, well, I walked in, like, I like talking and like I like asking questions, which you all know. and I really expected myself to have something to say and to be able to ask questions. And like, I like to be the one that like, they're like, oh, that girl asked such a great, that was so interesting what she asked. And I had nothing to say, which is rare.
You were so overwhelmed by the experience, you just sat quietly, you're saying.
I wasn't overwhelmed by the experience. I think I was overwhelmed by how much I didn't know. And how like I actually had no frame of reference for anything they were saying. And also, this is all like in contrast with, I went to Richard Montgomery High School in Rockville, Maryland for my 9th and 10th grade year, which is not Jewish. Like there are not a lot of Jews at Richard Montgomery High School. And typically what I've learned is that like the Jews are like then the people that you ask about Israel. Sorry, there's some noise behind me.
Yeah.
And that was all. So I was like, well, I'll give it 1 second. Hang on. Sorry.
Oh, you're in the
Camp office.
camp office right now.
The only place with Wi-Fi. So I had kind of become like, there was like me and 2 other Jewish people in my grade in my smaller program within the school, but still. And people would say like, Mira, you're Jewish. Like, what do you think about Israel and Palestine? And I was 14. Like, I didn't think anything, or like I thought that I thought things, but I didn't know what to think. But I thought I knew what to think because I'm me. And it was just like, it was just really humbling. And I felt ashamed because, I'd kind of been like explaining what I thought was right for 2 years. Like, I didn't know what to, and also even within like, I mean, there's not really any, and I don't really think there should be, maybe, I don't know what I think about that, but like discussion of Israel Palestine politics in like Jewish spaces for youth, because that's really challenging to broach. But like, I never thought about it before. I was just like, Israel is where the Jewish people go. And like, that is because in the Torah, that is what we talked about in Sue Marx's Minyan. And, and like, that's what, like, that's what I knew. Like, that was what I knew to be true. And so.
And suddenly here you were getting a very different dose of reality.
Right. And so then, okay, I'll shorten my speech now. But after that big panel, Nurit Gary, who that name probably means nothing to you, but who is the director of outreach or admissions or something at Givat Chaviva International School, came in and for 30 seconds was like, we have this international school, we have 50% locals, 25, a half of whom are Jewish, Israeli, and half of whom are Palestinian. We are, admissions are open. If you want to come or whatever, like tiny little thing, passed out some pamphlets. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm moving to Israel. And subsequently got in the tour bus and had my friends who were like sitting in the back 2 rows of the tour bus, like researching on our phones with our little like 2-week Israeli data SIM card plans, being like, okay, like we're gonna make this happen. And then I remember, like sitting in, I didn't tell my parents either. That's another fun part of the story. But I remember like the night after, I was just like sitting in some kibbutz with my best friend from camp, and calling the director of admissions and being like, hi, my name is Mira. I want to come to your school. I'm in Israel now. The school year was starting in a month.
Right.
I was like, how do I make this happen? I hadn't talked to my parents yet either. And she was just like, okay, this is what you have to do. And I finished off the Israel trip. I was still in Israel for 2 more weeks. Finished off the trip, came home. My dad picked me up from camp. And for the 4 hour, like the 3 hour and 45 minute drive back to camp, I was like, okay, this is why I need to go.
Wow.
And then in 2 weeks, or like 2 or 3 weeks, got a visa, applied, and was on a plane back to Israel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just that moment of listening to this alternative narrative, or realizing that there was much more to this story than you had been exposed to, or that you had absorbed, that made you say, I need to be here. I need to.
Right. Like, I think it was like the moment of, wow, like as soon as there are some moments where like a curtain is being pulled back and you think you know everything, and then someone tells you something and you learn something by actually listening.
Yeah.
And you realize how much you actually don't know, and you're like,
yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And that was that moment for me. And then I just had a gut feeling and I followed it.
So I can't help, as a parent myself, could you talk a little bit about what the interaction was like with your parents? Because here you were saying, by the way, I know you've had no notice about this. I just decided this and I really need to go do this. And obviously they agreed to send you off, but was there any family discussion about it? Any back and forth?
I think I might have missed some of the family discussion because I was still in Israel. I'm kind of happy that I missed some of the family discussion on that. My dad can probably, he's here, he can probably say something about that. Like, I mean, I had just decided that I was going to do it. Like even if they didn't think, I was just like, okay, it's going to happen. Like,
yeah, you were very clear. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Brian, do you want to chime in here at all, or Kim?
Sure. I think Kim is. I don't think Kim is on right now. She's actually at a lacrosse tournament in New Jersey with one of our other daughters. I think Mira knows this. Kim and I were very skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
And we initially, I mean, we tried to, we really wanted to listen to her carefully and hear her out, but we were very skeptical, in part because she was very happy at the high school. She was at Richard Montgomery, which she mentioned, and she was in a very good program. And we sort of did our own due diligence. We researched the program. We talked to some people who were familiar with it. And I think and then when we said we wanted to see how Mira was when she came home, how committed she was when she came home.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew the hurdle she had to jump over to and in the compressed time frame. And she was, she was pretty committed to it. She was, she took the application process, very seriously. And I think we decided that it was a very unusual, it's clearly going to be would be a very unusual experience. And we weren't at all sure it was going to work out. I mean, we thought there was, a distinct possibility that it would not end well.
Mm-hmm.
And we we thought about, we sketched out different scenarios. And I think at the end of the day, we just decided that the good cases were better than the bad cases. That is to say that the bad wasn't that bad. I mean, the worst was she was going to come home and finish high school here.
Right.
And that would be that. I mean, it would still have been an experience. So we just, we almost couldn't believe we were agreeing to it because we were so skeptical at the outset. But, sort of when we sort of went through the thought process ourselves, we thought it was, worth a chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Mira, I said to you a few days ago when we were visiting together, just gratitude to your parents for having faith in you and faith in this program, and kind of be willing to take a risk that allowed you to go forward. Okay, so I wanted to come back to you, Mira. Could you, again, I know you started to say a little bit about this, like just give us the basic shape of the program. And am I correct in remembering that it was just being initiated as you joined it, or was it had already been established?
So established is like an interesting word. It was the second year of the school. So there was only one grade before, no graduates.
Mm-hmm.
and it's just an 11th and 12th grade. Now they've expanded to have a 10th grade for some local students, but yeah. And sorry, there's some noise behind me. Yeah, so it's 11th and 12th grade. It's a boarding school, so you're living in.
Hi, Rabbi Isaac.
They said hi to you.
Hello, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Hi.
Guys, we have Clay here. She's on a service.
So yeah, it's a boarding school, and I don't know, like it seems very like normal to me now. I mean, you're living in the campus, and there's classrooms there, and it's like 4 classrooms and like
Mira,
10 teachers.
where is it geographically, just so people have an image?
So if you can imagine Israel and the West Bank, where the West Bank, kind of like where the green line is, there's like a very thin part of Israel where the West Bank is, and we are right over the green line on the Israel proper side of the green line, really close to, like almost directly inland from Caesarea, if you're familiar with Caesarea, near Pardes Chana, if you're familiar with Pardes Chana, or Hadera, I don't know, but like central to north, I would say. Yeah, if that rings any bells. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, it's like we're a school. We do a lot of like extra community stuff that I think normal schools don't do. Just in terms of like education about like our peer, like, so it's an international school. So half the students are locals, either, like I said, either Jewish Israeli or Palestinian citizens of Israel or Palestinian citizens of the West Bank. And then the other half are internationals, and that's mostly, we get a lot of like Eastern European, post-Soviet, or like Balkan region European. There were 2 girls from the US. There was only actually 2 international students who were Jewish, which I was surprised about. I expected it was going to be predominantly Jewish, which is fine. The other girl I was actually roommates with her this past year, but she's from the Netherlands. And so just like Jewishly, it was kind of interesting to see, like, she's not a Reconstructionist Jew, but like how similar our relationship with Israel was. And she's like, I mean, conservative, so I don't know how. And in the Netherlands, I don't know. Okay, anyways. But yeah, so it's like a really special place. And a lot of it in the beginning was very much do it yourself. Like if you want it done, like it doesn't exist yet, so go do it. And yes, there is Kivat Chaviva.
Yeah, I'm screen sharing a map. I just think it's interesting for people to see, but can I get this to move there? No. Sorry. Okay, there. Now you can see there's Haifa, and here's Tel Aviv, and there's Kivat Chaviva. So just as Mira was describing, close to Hadera and Caesarea.
Yeah.
Yaakov. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Mira. Go ahead.
Yeah. No worries. That's a really good visual. So yeah, but I forgot what I was saying. International.
Yeah.
Do it yourself.
Oh yes.
So yeah.
A startup program, so there's room to be.
Right, and like I think room is kind of an understatement. Like if you want it done, like really do it yourself. And so that was something I didn't really get in the beginning. And I was like, this school is blah blah blah, nothing blah blah whatever.
Yeah.
And then I just started doing it myself, and I really like doing it myself. Is what I learned. I like being involved, and I got really involved, and they have student government set up in a way where it's like kind of a democratic school. Like, there's some schools that are like, we make all our decisions with everyone. And so it's like a version of that. But there were 4 elected student representatives that just like would basically like talk with the administration about student problems, and then would create policy for students about like how we wanted to be in our school. And I loved that. It like became my thing. And even after my term was over, it was still very much my thing. and I did a lot of, I was the, like, I guess, leader of the sustainability committee, I guess leader, I don't know, but, which was like, Fred is nodding and smiling. But that, like, I really loved doing that. And I planned like a really great, we did like theme weeks kind of. So each there was different committees, like a cultural events committee and a environment committee and a politics committee. And so for our sustainability week, we did like we went around the country and we like chose different places, not around the country, that's kind of an overstatement, but we like went in our area and did cleanups like around the region. And that was really, it was really great. If I find a picture of the beach cleanup that we did, it was that like really beautiful sunset that I showed, but it was like a really, really fantastic event. What else? Like the school's really, I'll say one more thing about the school,
Go ahead.
is that it's really like involved in the local, in the like regional goings on.
Mhm.
And so like I think probably one of the most rewarding things that I did was in 11th grade. In 12th grade, it didn't happen because of COVID, but I was teaching English in a local middle school for like 13-year-olds. It was actually an Arab middle school. And that is special because in Arab middle schools, or in Arab schools in general in Israel, they are learning English as their third language. So they're at like, so like their English skills are typically worse than Israelis who are Jewish Israelis who are learning English as their second language. So being able to like do that was really cool. And I actually, yeah, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of questions coming up in the chat. Actually, the same question, just how big is the school? And before you answer that, I just wanted to explain for people's understanding, the high school program that you were in at Givat Chaviva. Givat Chaviva is an institute which is many decades old. It's got
70 years old. Yeah,
right.
like as old as Israel old. Yeah.
Right. It's very deeply connected with the kibbutz movement in Israel, with well, I was going to say with Hashomer Atzair, but with others as well.
Yeah.
So the high school program is new, but the institute itself is very well established and a real center of learning and history and dialogue. And in fact, some of you may remember, I think it was just last week. Time has kind of gone out the window for me. I think it was just last week that Rabbi Sid.
Yeah. Yes, he was in Givat Chaviva.
Right.
And I just missed him.
Right. He was there. He wasn't just there last week. He was here last week and spoke to our community about Israel. And he mentioned this one very important activist who is at Givat Chaviva, and his name is escaping me at the moment. Fred, if you know who I'm talking about, you can say it.
Mahmoud Darwashi.
Yes,
oh,
thank you.
Yes.
So Sid and Mahmoud Darwashi have had interactions over the years, and Sid was even able to bring Mr. Darwashi to Adat Shalom a number of years ago to speak to us. It's very powerful. So just wanted to mention that as context for the high school program. Okay, so people are asking, how big is the school? How many students are in it?
So currently there's about 40 to 50 students in each grade. So there have been like 100 students up until next year when they're adding a 10th grade, and there'll be 30 more students. And I think the 10th grade is just going to be for local students, just to like kind of bridge the gap on the English level that a lot of the international students are pretty proficient in English and the locals are less so.
Right.
So yeah, but very small. Yes.
Well, 130 is.
I mean, so that's me coming from my 2,000 sized Maryland public
Right, a big
school.
public high school in the United States is, huge compared to that, but some other schools are much smaller.
Right.
What about, and we have time here for one more question, maybe two more questions. Anybody else? For Mira or for any of us? And okay.
Can
Well,
I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't have speed to hit the raise hand. Mira, can you tell us a little bit about the program you're going into and why you chose it? Is that?
Yeah, so I'm doing, like I said earlier, I'm doing a dual degree program between Tel Aviv University and Columbia University, which is, so the first 2 years are in Tel Aviv and the second two are in New York City. I, I like found out about it in, I guess in like February of 2020. So right before COVID in Israel. COVID was there, but not in Israel yet. And then COVID got to Israel in early March, like 2 weeks before it got to the US. And I was already thinking about colleges. And then I was like, then I had left Israel and I was like, wow, I want to go back. And then I kind of started applying to colleges. Like I thought about it more over the summer, after I knew that like 12th grade was actually going to happen. And I mean, I was just like, there was like a lot of stuff on the list. I want to study the Middle East and Middle Eastern languages. And so I was looking at Middle Eastern studies programs in the US and the UK and McGill, only one Canadian school. But then this was the only program that was in the Middle East and also in Israel. So I have a personal connection. But also that's kind of an interesting angle on, like, the focus was going to be a little bit more Israel Jewish than a typical Middle Eastern studies program would be, I think. And so that was kind of attractive to me, because that's like a little bit more focused, but I get to keep the broader lens of Middle Eastern studies. Also, Tel Aviv is a beautiful city. So is New York City. That definitely helped. But I don't know, like I really, like it might sound kind of like hokey, but like lifestyle wise, and like I love living in Israel and I really like the directness of Israelis. I've grown to appreciate it, and I think you need to acclimate, but I've like begun to like I really love it. Just like in terms of like how I like to communicate with people, and like I don't know how to describe it so much without talking for the next 20 minutes, but I really just like in terms of my personal interpersonal communication, I really like that. Yeah. And also language. Also like language wise, I'm gonna go back in August, like I said, to study Hebrew, which is like an opportunity I probably wouldn't get in a normal Middle Eastern studies program where I would do Arabic. And I'm also gonna study Arabic, hopefully for 4 years, which will balance out like living in Israel for 4 years, maybe, who knows. But yeah, so that's basically in a nutshell why I chose it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mira. I'm just
Can I
mindful.
ask a quick question though?
Yeah, go ahead, Naomi. Let's make this the last question.
I'm just curious. First of all, this is absolutely phenomenally interesting, and I love what you're saying. And it's just so like you opened with how interested you were in what they were saying, and having you talk about it is probably not the same, but very, very interesting. And I guess you were drawn to it because you felt like you were learning some things about other people. How about your relationships that have developed in the school with Palestinians, and can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure thing. So because the school is so small, it's very dynamic and changes a lot based on who the students are at the time. So in my 11th grade, there were some really, really strong female Palestinian voices, almost overpowering. And they really set the tone for what was and was not, like, it's a high school, like the popular kids set the tone. And they were like, great and smart, and like everyone wanted to be them. And so like they were like, I really adopted this, like, I don't know, like I didn't know anything, like I still don't know anything, none of us know anything, but like I felt like I really, looking back, I think I really adopted a lot of just like what they were saying, because A, I wanted to be them, and B, they were talking the loudest. I think in general, like people just do that, not just in high school. And then in 12th grade, I was a senior and I wasn't, it changed. Like they graduated and there were much fewer, there was not like a strong Palestinian voice on campus. And that really, and also because of COVID, students from the West Bank didn't come. There was also supposed to be a student from Gaza who was supposed to come, who did not. Not for COVID reasons, probably just because of visas and the Israeli Ministry of the Interior. But it really shifted the dynamic of the school. So I'm still like, just in terms of like how much of the Palestinian narrative, not, or part of the Palestinian narrative, that's such like a simplistic phrase, but it was just less represented. I will say one of my best friends of all time is from East Jerusalem, and his name is Muhammad. I could have just said whatever. Muhammad. Every third person is named Muhammad. So he's a citizen of East Jerusalem, or citizen. So like being friends with him was like a real learning experience for me. He is a Jordanian citizen who has never been to Jordan, who's living in East Jerusalem, who's not a citizen of Israel, or like can't vote in Palestinian, like couldn't vote in the Palestinian elections that actually didn't happen a month ago because of the war. And so like being friends with him and also watching his like political, like how he has grown and changed and everything over the past 2 years was really like, also I'll do that again, like crazy. Yeah, like I mean, I don't even know how to like give a succinct answer to that question. It's just been kind of a mosh and of like thoughts and feelings, and there's a rocket there and someone just died, and like you can't vote, and I will say like it definitely, I would say more than anything, I think going to school there when I did, like COVID and war, really has deepened my appreciation for nuance and complexity of like not just that conflict, but also just in general. Like nothing is dichotomous ever. And I definitely did not appreciate that before. Yeah, and I still sometimes have a hard time appreciating it, but because I have that foundation, it really like, I don't know, that's like has become part of my core, I think.
Yeah. Wow. It sounds like there's so much more to explore with you, and I hope we will get more chances, because the journey is not over. It's not over for any of us, but here you are getting ready to, well, first you're getting ready to welcome a whole bunch of campers to Camp Havaya.
Yes.
And then to head back to Israel to study language, and then to begin your college program there. We really appreciate the chance to see some of this through your eyes, and to hear what I'm taking away is your emphasis on the reality that nothing is simple, even though we want it to be, and we want to look at something like this Israeli-Palestinian reality and just be able to pick a side and solve it, and that's not possible. So in the moment, what we can do is keep learning and keep being curious and keep listening. And thank you for modeling that for us, Mira. Thank you so much for joining us from South Sterling.
Anytime.
And, we might get another chance to say hello and goodbye as you pass through Bethesda for 5 minutes.
Yes.
And wish you Shabbat Shalom for now.
Shalom. It was nice to talk to all of you.
Great to see you. Everybody, Shabbat Shalom. Be well. I feel like there's some announcement I'm supposed to make, but I can't think of what it is right now. Thank you again to Pam Summers and to the entire group of people that led this morning, and we can't wait to hear you again. Shabbat Shalom. See you all.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Jan and Gary.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting this.
Hi, guys.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hey, Pam and Fred, I'm going to call you.
Oh, call us.
Okay.
All right.
Now you can come over.
Yeah, you want to get together tonight? That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to call you. Bye-bye.
That's a community.
Okay, folks, I'm going to end this in 3, 2, oh.
I just wanted to say thank you again to you, Shelley and Beth.
Our pleasure. Right, Beth?
No problem. Happy to do it.
Shabbat Shalom, all.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.